The scent of burnt coffee and stale ambition hung in the air of the boardroom. From my seat at the far end of the long mahogany table, a position I'd chosen deliberately, I watched my husband, Oliver, command the room. He was in his element, pointer in hand, laser dot dancing across graphs showing soaring quarterly sales for our company, Viridian Dynamics. "And the Istanbul expansion is the key," Oliver declared, his voice a smooth baritone that once made my heart flutter. Now it just sounded rehearsed. "The market is ripe. The contacts are eager. This trip will solidify our presence in the Eurasian corridor." He looked every inch the successful head of sales. Tailored navy suit, perfectly knotted tie, hair styled with casual precision. The board members, a mix of seasoned investors and my own discreet appointees, nodded along. I watched his eyes, though. They never once flickered to me, the silent, unassuming wife he believed was there merely for moral support. If only they knew. I wasn't just Irene, Oliver's wife of 12 years, the woman who organized charity galas and perfected her beef Wellington. I was Irina Sokolov, the majority silent partner of Viridian Dynamics, the S in So Holdings, which owned 51% of the company. Oliver knew his partner was a reclusive investor named I. Sokolov, who communicated only through lawyers and trusted intermediaries. He had no idea the signature on his paychecks, the invisible hand that had funded his rise, belonged to the woman who shared his bed and, until recently, his dreams. The deception had started innocently. When we founded the company with my family's capital and his drive, I was happy in the background, handling strategy from home while he was the charismatic face. After my parents passed, leaving me their substantial but quiet fortune, I preferred the shadows. It gave me freedom and it protected us, or so I thought. Now the shadows had become my prison, and the man basking in the light was a stranger. The meeting adjourned. Oliver shook hands, exuding confidence. As people filed out, he finally approached me, a practiced, affectionate smile on his lips. He kissed my cheek. It felt cold. "See, darling? Nailed it. The board is eating out of my hand. This Istanbul trip is in the bag." "Istanbul," I repeated, my voice mild, the voice of a supportive wife. "It sounds very important." "Critical," he affirmed, checking his Rolex, a gift from the company for his last big success, a success I had engineered from my home office. 2 weeks, lots of meetings, dinners, you know how it is. I did know. I knew more than he could imagine. The first crack had appeared a month ago, a credit card statement for a boutique hotel in Antalya, Turkey, not Istanbul, charged to a corporate subsidiary account he thought I knew nothing about. Then, the whispers from a loyal department head about Oliver's new protégé, a young, ambitious marketing assistant named Katerina. The pieces, once scattered, now formed a damning picture. A fake business trip, embezzled funds, a romantic getaway. "Of course," I smiled, adjusting the sleeve of my simple but expensive blouse. "You work so hard. You deserve it." Back in our minimalist, coldly elegant penthouse, the silence was deafening. I poured a glass of Pinot Noir and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the city's glittering skyline. My city, my company, my husband, stealing from me to fund an affair. A fire, cold and precise, ignited in my chest. It wasn't the hot, tearful rage of a betrayed wife. That would come later, in private. This was the calculated fury of a partner wronged. He wasn't just cheating on me, he was robbing me, lying to the company we built, and insulting my intelligence by thinking I was too blind, too domesticated, to see it. Revenge, I decided, would not be a scene. It would be a dismantling. A corporate and personal audit with extreme prejudice. The next morning, after Oliver left for the office, humming, his suitcase already packed for his Istanbul flight the next day, I went to work. From my secure home server, I accessed the full financial backend of Viridian. I was a ghost in the machine, with higher clearance than the CEO. I traced the fraudulent transactions, inflated vendor invoices, dummy consultancy fees, all funneled into an offshore account linked to a travel agency specializing in discreet luxury getaways. The final destination? The Azure Cove Resort Spa, Antalya. A king suite with a private pool, booked for 2 weeks. The reservation was under Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Charming. I then accessed Oliver's and Katerina's work calendars. Both showed as out of office, business development trip, Istanbul. A flurry of fake meeting invites with non-existent Turkish firms populated their schedules. The audacity was almost impressive. My next call was to a private investigation firm retained by SO Holdings for due diligence. Mr. Eris Thorne answered on the first ring. "Ms. Sokolov," he said, his voice neutral. "An operational matter?" "Surveillance. Antalya, Turkey. The Azure Cove Resort. Subjects: Oliver Reed and a female companion, Katerina Volkova. I need visual confirmation, dates, times, discrete high definition. A live feed would be preferable." There was a slight pause. Thorne was ex-MI6 and never questioned the why, only the how. "Consider it done. We have assets in the region. You'll have a secure portal by tomorrow evening." Next, I summoned David Chen, the company's steely-eyed head of legal and my only direct confidant at Viridian. He arrived at the penthouse, his expression unreadable. "Irene," he nodded, "Oliver is embezzling. Substantial sums. For a personal trip with an employee," I stated flatly, sliding a tablet with the evidence across the glass coffee table. David scanned the documents, his jaw tightening. "This is fraud. Gross misconduct. We can have him arrested." "Not yet," I said. "I want him to get on that plane. I want him to think he's gotten away with it. Then I want to pull the rug out from under him. Completely." A grim smile touched David's lips. He understood the language of strategic ruin. "What do you need?" "First, quietly freeze all his corporate credit lines and access to subsidiary accounts the moment he lands in Turkey. Leave his personal accounts untouched for now. I want him to use his own money when the corporate well runs dry. Second, draft termination papers for both Oliver Reed and Katerina Volkova for gross fraud and violation of company policy. Have them ready for my electronic signature. Third, prepare a press release regarding a leadership change in sales, citing a new strategic direction, vague but firm. And the board? I'll handle the board as Irina Sokolov, after the fact. For now, this is an internal compliance matter. The plan was set. The trap was baited. The following day, I drove Oliver to the airport, playing the part of the doting wife. I kissed him goodbye, wished him success in Istanbul. He hugged me, his mind already on sun-drenched beaches and Katerina. I watched him stride through the departures gate, a man stepping into a fantasy of his own making, unaware he was walking onto a stage I had set for his downfall. That evening, I logged into the secure portal from Thorne's agency. A crystal-clear, silent video feed showed the lush gardens and azure pools of the Azure Cove. My heart was a stone in my chest. Then they appeared. Oliver, in linen shorts and a polo shirt, laughing, and Katerina, 25, live and glowing in a bikini cover-up, holding his arm. They looked blissful. They looked like a couple. They looked like fools. I watched them for an hour, saw him order champagne by the pool, saw her feed him a strawberry, saw the easy intimacy that had been absent from our marriage for years. The cold fire burned brighter. I took screenshots. I recorded clips. For 2 days, I monitored their paradise. They never left the resort. There were no business meetings, no conference calls, just sun, sea, and sin, paid for with my company's money. On the third day, I made my move. I booked a first-class flight to Antalya. I packed a single suitcase with elegant, powerful clothes, a white pantsuit, a simple black dress. I was not going as a scorned wife. I was going as the executioner. I arrived at the Azure Cove as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. I knew their room number, the King's Suite with the private plunge pool on the top floor. I didn't go to my own room. I went straight to theirs. I could hear laughter from behind the door, music playing. Taking a deep, steadying breath, I knocked. The laughter stopped. After a moment, the door opened. Oliver stood there, shirtless, a cocktail in his hand. His smile of casual expectation vanished, replaced by a look of sheer, uncomprehending horror. His face drained of all color. "Irene? What are you doing here?" he stammered, trying to block the doorway. "I was in the neighborhood," I said, my voice calm, cutting through the warm evening air like ice. "Thought I'd check on your business meetings in Istanbul. Strange, you don't look like you've been in a boardroom." I pushed past him into the opulent suite. Katerina was on the sofa, wrapped in a silk robe, her eyes wide with shock and fear. Half-empty glasses and room service plates littered the table. "Who is this, Oliver?" Katerina asked, her voice trembling. "This," I said, turning to face her, "is Oliver's wife, and you must be Katerina, the protégée. How's the training going? Learning a lot about offshore accounts and fraudulent invoices?" "Get out!" Oliver finally found his voice, a low growl. "You have no right. I'll explain everything later. You're causing a scene." "I have every right," I said, pulling out my tablet, "as the majority owner of Viridian Dynamics." The words hung in the air. Oliver stared, his brain refusing to process them. What are you talking about?" "I, Sokolov. Irina Sokolov. Your silent partner, the one who signs your bonuses, the one whose money is currently paying for this little escapade." I turned the tablet towards Katerina. On the screen played a loop of clear video, the two of them by the pool, laughing, kissing. "This is footage from the last 2 days, proof of your fraudulent business trip." Katerina looked from the screen to Oliver's ashen face. "Oliver? What is she saying? Owner?" "She's lying," he blustered, but the conviction was gone. The architecture of his lies was crumbling before him. "I've already frozen all your corporate access," I continued, my tone clinical. "The charges you've put on the company card here? Declined. The hotel bill? It's in your name. Your personal cards, I believe, have fairly low limits." I turned to Katerina. "And you, Ms. Volkova, are also fired for complicity in fraud, effective immediately." I tapped my tablet screen. A moment later, both Oliver's and Katerina's phones chimed simultaneously. They looked at them. The termination emails, with the evidence attached, had just been delivered. "You can't do this," Oliver roared, lunging for the tablet. I stepped back smoothly. "It's already done. Security will be here shortly to escort you from the premises. Your belongings will be packed and sent to the lobby. I've informed the hotel management that you are personally responsible for all charges." As if on cue, there was a firm knock on the door. 2 serious-looking hotel managers and a security guard stood outside. "Mr. Reed, Miss Volkova," the head manager said, his voice polite but firm. "We've been asked to assist you with your immediate checkout. Please come with us." The public humiliation was complete. Katerina began to cry, hysterical, angry tears. "You said it was a bonus! You said everything was approved! You liar!" she screamed at Oliver, who stood paralyzed, his world imploding. I watched as they were led away, Oliver scrambling for a shirt, Katerina sobbing into her hands. The suite, now empty of their presence, felt suddenly vast and silent. I walked out onto the terrace, overlooking the darkening Mediterranean. The air was warm, scented with salt and jasmine. I felt no triumph, only a vast, empty stillness. The chapter was closed. Later, from my own room, I made the call to David. "Proceed with the press release. Notify the board that I, Irina Sokolov, will be assuming temporary leadership of the sales division and will address them next week." I then transferred enough funds to cover the cost of 2 basic economy one-way tickets back to the city. The last penny I would ever spend on Oliver Reed. The email with the itineraries was sent to him with no message. Let him sit in a cramped seat for 10 hours and contemplate his choices. Sitting alone on my balcony, I sipped a glass of cold water. The identity of Oliver's wife, the careful homemaker, the silent supporter, felt like a shed skin. It had been a comfortable costume, but it no longer fit. I was Irina Sokolov. I owned a thriving company. I had just surgically removed a cancer from it. The future, for the first time in years, was not defined by another person's needs or deceptions. It was a blank page, vast and full of terrifying, exhilarating possibility. The moon rose over the sea, a silver path on the dark water. It looked like a road. I didn't know where it led, but for the first time in a long time, I was eager to find out. The game was over. My life was just beginning.